Good early morning, everybody. It's Lorraine, Alternative Homesteading, on March 6, 2025. I hope everybody's doing well. Well, yesterday, the weather here was really bizarre. It was nice in the morning, somewhat, and it was like 64 degrees. Then it got windy, and then tonight it snowed. It was like snow on the porch, like icy snow, slippery. Very bizarre. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to. I'm just trying to think if I've got any news for you guys. Well, I would have recorded this a little sooner, but you know what the criminals do, the control freaks. They like to use radio frequencies and knock me out. And they steal my time. They like to steal time, they steal everything. But the local perpetrators, the local neighbors, they've been really quiet. Very, very quiet. But usually they're off from like December through March, so they'll probably start up their antics in April. I'm going to continue reading from that Gang Stalker Survival Handbook written by the 18-year-old, a spiritual guide. So he goes on to continue my story, what it's like to be gang stalked. Great information on them. Warning, disturbing. Now there's some parts of this that I'm not going to read. I don't think that they too will appreciate it. So I'm going to start here. And I think this is really interesting. The more resilient and capable the target is survival, the more aggressive, violent, terrorizing, and traumatic these organized terrorists will inflict in their terrorist crusade to destroy. And this is, he says, from the Targeted Individual Handbook. Now, you know, that is amazing, right? The more resilient and capable the target is at survival, the more aggressive and violent and terrorizing and traumatic these criminals, these losers, these three Masons, these neighbors, these infraguards, these will inflict in their crusade to destroy you. Isn't that amazing? Meanwhile, they all hide behind secrecy. They cover their faces. They wear ski masks. They don't show their faces. They wear cloaking devices. They creep around in the night. Cowards. Cowards. And meanwhile, somebody contacted me, also lives in Kentucky, and they also experience these creepers at night. Yes. So this is not an isolated incident here on my property. It's happening to other people as well. Their cameras are picking up this stuff. And we're not alone here. So he writes, birth hero at 0. He says, my name is Adam Jehovah Huma. I think it's Juma. It may be pronounced Huma. The Jehovah part is not part of my real name. It's not on my ID, but I name myself. I am now currently 18. I will start from the very beginning because even at the very beginning of my life, the battle began. In 2004, I was born in Florida. But I didn't cry when I was conceived. I was dead still and silent. The doctors repeatedly beat me on my back with no response. One of the doctors thought I was dead, so did my mother, but alas, after they beat my back for some time, I awoke with a great cry and breaths of fresh air. At just the age of 0, I triumphed over the fingers of death. Early childhood abuse. I was raised in Jacksonville, Florida. The story is quite complicated, so I will shorten it. I lived mostly around my older brother, my father, and my mother, but today my mother and father are separated. Now, before I could remember, my father was an absolutely terrible, horrific person that tormented my mother and me and my older brother while we were still around 1 to 11 years old. My mother told me stories about how drunken father tried to burn my mother's car down while me and my brother were still in it, as well as acting crazy with a gun while drunk. Sometime later, as I began to get around the age of 8 to 12, I could remember the terrible abuses of my father and torment of my brother. I was the youngest in the family and I had it the worst. Yes, my brother was also a bit mistreated, but not only did I have to deal with my physically, mentally, and emotionally abusive father, but also my brother's physical, mental, emotional, and sexual abuse, which was even worse than my father at times. I was the kindest and most heartwarming and thoughtful in the entire family. My mother and even my father would always tell me about how calm I was as a child and how disrespectful and rude my older brother was. And yet they all took advantage of my warmth. They would suck the kindness and emotional support and mental energy right out of me, like vampires, and would stick like leeches, and gave nothing in return other than disrespect and cruel hatred. I was so alone and tormented. They all aimed for me because I was the smallest, youngest, and brightest, and all the while it occurred, my mother did little to nothing. Although I have just a bit of respect for her because she wouldn't treat me or my brother too bad at all. I honestly don't even want to speak about the things my older brother and father did to me. My father was such a manipulative narcissist, and so is my brother. I vividly remember how he took my virginity at the age of 14. I hate writing about this so much because it gives me flashbacks. Oh God. I have never told anyone about this, but I feel I'm probably going to die soon. So I don't think I think my story will help others in the world who are suffering. I can remember how my brother would pinch me, pick on me, and beat me because I was smaller and call me so many terrible things. One day, he even pushed me towards the laundry for about an hour, trying to convince me to drink bleach and commit suicide, telling me that I was pathetic and that I should just unalive myself and that nobody would miss me. He would whip me with his computer wire. And he tried to do so many other things. When I would start to cry and my parents were about to come home, he would try to hug me and apologize. But I pushed him away and he quickly went back to insulting me and calling me a crybaby and a little scrawny biatch. He would always try to convince me how, whenever he pinched me, it was my fault and that I deserved it. And it was because I was young. I would partly believe him, but another part of me intuitively knew he was wrong and lying. I remember how my dad would force us to take showers together. And he would touch me, one time quickly jabbing his finger. Okay. I'm going to have to omit this. At some other times when I was young, he would convince me to sleep in bed with him because he was scared and needed to cuddle and all that. So I did, and he would molest and rub me in my sleep and while I was awake. I vividly remember how he would... I'm going to just say his genitals. We'll spare you the details. It was nasty. Oh God, I remember it every time I write about it. It hurts. But finally I'm done writing this part. Getting older and wiser. Now he goes into something I don't think I'm going to discuss here. It's psychedelics and spiritual awakening. He says, once again, it's a lot of detail, so I will greatly shorten it. I still lived through all of this until my older ages, around 14 to 16, and despite my troubled past, I had mostly overcome it. You should know that even throughout my early childhood, I was existential and philosophical, especially at my young age. I was naturally born curious and wondered about the secrets of the universe while staring up at the stars at night, thinking of concepts like God and death and life and consciousness, spirit, soul, and existence itself. And one day I prayed a great prayer of sincerity for anything at all in the universe that may hear, that may lift me up out of my darkness and into the light of love and truth, and that I may be set free. For only by the truth can one be set free. Then one day, maybe a couple of months later, I saw a video on YouTube, something about called the Law of Attraction, and so skeptically I watched it, but little did I know that video would change the course of my life forever. After watching it, I began to apply it to my life and gain some wealth and grow spiritually, and grow I did. My spiritual growth skyrocketed at that time. I began to learn many new things. I was already smarter than my entire family, while still the youngest. I learned about the spiritual truth and horrendous crimes of the U.S. and all other governments and how they suppressed the people to try to take over the world. Then one day, my brother got some weed and other psychedelics like LSD, psilocybin mushrooms from his crooked friends. My brother had had bad friends because he was bad and he wanted to be in a gang. And they thought psychedelics are party drugs, but they are not. Psychedelics and weed are holy substances that must be ingested with respect and care. Besides that, he gave it to me and took it. It was the most terrifying, amazing, loving, and liberating experience of my entire life, and skyrocketed my spiritual growth even more. And around this time, and at my age, I was already the 0.001% of the real awakened individuals and light workers. I cannot put into words the great seeds of wisdom that had been planted into my brain, for it was beyond all things known to basic man. Great, great, great thoughts came about, some forgotten, a lot remembered. I tried to find the others who had the insanely deep thoughts like me, but all the other users of the substance were idiotic fools who did it just for fun and were brain dead. How could you take a substance of such incredibly holy power and still remain so ignorant and stupid? That is a mystery for me, and I must say, it was terribly, terribly lonely. Even today, many dark nights of the soul I have went through, but still I triumph to progress into the next and most extreme chapters of my life. And this is for educational purposes only. I'm reading a testimony of an 18-year-old. Adam, Jehovah, Uma, the hero, we, I have to save the world. This is the part where now 99.9% of everyone stops relating and reading. But my story is true, and I will keep on writing it truthfully nevertheless. And I know that on the great day of the rapture, the great real awakening truth will be revealed, and many of you will finally awaken and reread my story in awe of my experience and strength. Now, around the age of 16 or 17, this was my peak before it all began to fall down once more. This will most likely be about the age of 16 and a bit of 17. I was very awake and aware at this time, and I was absolutely astonished by the stupidity and hypnosis of the masses. There's such tyranny and suppression going on, even before the C, that pandemic. And he writes shit. But I was one of the very few people to see the real and incredible severity of this global threat, the dark forces. Now at this point, you should know, a lot of people say that they're awake and claim that they're light workers. But 99% are actually fakes. Disgraceful fakes. Like fake veterans and soldiers. If you're not actively working to literally save the world, You cannot say you're awake because you do not see the true severity of this situation. Because if you did, you would be working to help bring change on a mass scale through operations of light and forming tribes and small societies of light workers. But none of you are. Not one. And at this point, I knew I had to take matters into my own hands and begin working to save the world as a true warrior of light. I began to train mercilessly my mind, body, and soul. I needed to perfect every aspect of my being in order to evolve into something beyond human. For no mere mortal man can achieve such a great feat of righteousness. I decided I needed to become a furious angel, a warrior monk, a loving soldier, a hero. By using my newfound wisdom of the law of attraction and reprogramming the subconscious mind, I was able to get through it quite smoothly, other than a couple of bumps on the road by my terrible brother and father I still had to deal with. I worked hard every day and night until I became extremely strong, fast, healthy, and sharp. Sadly, I do not have many pics of me in the past. But I do have some to prove to you that what I'm saying is real. And then he writes, here are pictures of me around the age of 16 to the early 17s in my strengthened state. And he gives a URL here, and I think I remember looking at this URL and I couldn't locate it. And anybody who wants this 190-page document, it's a PDF. You can email me at alternativehomesteading@gmail.com. So I'm going to show you this. So he started working out, and you can see he's a slight guy, but he's working out here with the barbells here. Look. Okay, so he's working out here. So he's getting stronger. A blank page. Okay, so here he is meditating. There are a couple more pictures of him lifting weights. Here he is. Okay. Here he is. It must be with his family because he blackens out the faces. But here he is. And here he is again. Blackens out the faces of his friends. There are a couple more photos of him here. I began to learn more about spirituality, magic, consciousness, and the truth of the horrendous evils and crimes against humanity and all things good by the malevolent dark forces that work day and night in order to take over the world and enslave mankind. They never slept, so why should I? A side note about my brother. You should note the other 3 events that took place around this time. The first was that my brother took psychedelics irresponsibly and he lost his mind. I warned him about the holy substances, but he did not listen. He took it while at my other brother's house and lost his mind, for he could not handle the truth. He's now fat, lazy, and dumb. Kind of autistic, now actually talk about karma. The second event was the beating of my big brother by me. He wouldn't stop bothering me, and he kept asking me for a slap box, and so I accepted. After the fight, I beat him so badly his face was bloody, for he was weak from all the junk food he ate. And he was really slow from all the smoking he did to his lungs. And after we were all done, he called it a draw, which I still laugh about till this day. My big brother truly was a disgusting, pitiful person. Even after clear defeat, he still tries to manipulate me. But it didn't work this time. Around that time, he finally stopped abusing me. So who's the scrawny one now? Lastly, this isn't really an event, but he basically is starting to get back on his feet and treats me decently now. But every once in a while, he tries to test me once more. He is still quite autistic, but more calm. Now, while on my righteous mission, I began to learn the ways of magic and the third eye in order to gain more insight into the future and gain even more and greater power. I also smoke weed with sincerity and respect on the side, and from it more wisdom was revealed to me. I began to have odd dreams and some visions of terrible things to come in the future. I won't get into this. But as time went on, I began to grow more and more and more in all ways and evolve. And around this time period, I began to do research in order to find ways to gain money and power. And the research was mostly successful. I learned how to get weed and other weed products, LSD, grow the mushrooms. I'm not going to say some of these other things. How to acquire worldly goods and learn the forbidden secrets of society. I wrote a book on it called Acquiring Worldly Goods, very helpful reference guide. And it can be downloaded on this zip library, but I remember going there and I couldn't locate it. I was serious about saving the world, and I still am. My work continued for some time, for I searched for a foundational method and knowledge of how to live free, happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise life filled with light, without restrictions, for I am a sovereign soul. Only by knowledge and love could you be set free, and that is the truth. And I knew that when I finally found the answer to that, as well as more information of the crimes of influential people and the superpowers of the world, I would finally release that information to the whole world. Then, for some time far and wide, I have searched the lands for like-minded and like-kind-hearted people, only to see that I'm even more lonely than I could have ever thought. Years of searching, all in vain. I know there has to be at least one person out there who's truly awake with the light. Yet so many people are waking up. Yet many people are waking up and a bit spiritual. But only about 0.1% are truly awake and warriors of light. Those who are falsely awake say you just need love and rainbows and sunshine, and even have the audacity to say that talking about the government's crimes and cabal's horrendous acts of pure evil is negative energy, and they don't want to bring it up. This is the first major red flag of the false awakened individual, for you cannot have light without truth. Truth is information, high vibrational information, and high vibrational information is light. Most spiritual quote-unquote people are like this, and they're fools. Although, if all you want to do is pray and meditate, that's fine. But you cannot call yourself a warrior of light or a light worker if you do not even have the balls to face the truth head on and work to expose it and take down the cabal. For know that once the cabal is down, humanity will be saved, for all humanity needs is truth and love, but the dark forces are the suppressor of information. Once they're removed, information, knowledge, and wisdom will flow all throughout the world like water, and humanity will be liberated. Now I know that we are just suppressed and kept separated. I know there has to be someone else out there throughout the lands, but from what I can see, I have terribly surpassed most of my brothers and sisters of Gaia in terms of knowledge and wisdom, and that's great, but it's also sad. If there's anyone out there that burns with my green and yellow fire of the heart and wishes to help save the world with me, please do contact me and help me save the world. It is single-handedly the most important thing to do in the entire world right now. There is literally nothing more important than this other than your own ascension. For if we do not break free from the shackles of darkness placed upon our hearts and minds, then humanity will be enslaved for all of eternity, just as cattle appointed for the slaughter. If you do not agree with this statement, once again, do not even dare to call yourself awake, or even worse, a light worker, quote unquote. 99.9% of the world is still living in a fantasy land and cannot see the bigger picture. Now, back to the story. I was so young and already wise for my age, intelligent, sharp, thoughtful, strong, healthy, beautiful, and bright. I had it all despite my age and tortured past. I triumphed once more, for the love in my heart can never be quenched. I ate only the healthiest and worked the hardest on all aspects of my being. I meditated on the manifestation of greater and power of the self-God meditation. And I did Qigong. I spent a lot of time in nature. He never did take care of himself, masturbate, for I knew of the terrible consequences it had on health. And from doing that, I mastered the way of, I don't know what this is, of no nut, no fap. I don't know what the hell that means. I was a god on earth, and nothing could stop, for I was determined to take down the cabal no matter what it took. I told only some people in the past about my holy mission, but always did they not understand and get angry or confused. They turned down the truth, for they were not ready. So quickly I realized most were not ready for the truth, and I kept my mission a secret for the most part, unless I was looking for an initiate to be my ally of my divine mission. I searched online, offline, in and out, up and down, far and wide, throughout all the places I could look, but all in vain, for all my brothers and sisters throughout the world were fast asleep. I thought to myself, and contemplated for some time, how could this be? How could they be so willfully stupid and submissive? I cried myself to sleep so often, for not a single person I could connect to. But I never gave up the mission, and I was determined to get through this until the very end, whether I have failed or succeeded. I made a vow for my soul not to leave this earth until I saw it was cleansed of all the darkness and light shined upon the face of the earth. I will succeed. The mission comes first. I must be steadfast in my faith and keep moving forward. I continued for some time until finally the next chapter of my righteous story came to a sudden halt. Little did I know that I have already caught the eye of the dark ones, for they were already watching me all this time. The attack, gang stalkers, and how they took me down. This chapter began around my late 16s and continued through most of my 17s. Now I begin my days as usual, but I begin to notice my head would really hurt in the morning. But I brushed it off. Then my joints began to really hurt. But once again, I brushed it off. And then I began to ejaculate in my sleep. This began to happen more often and over again. Large amounts of semen would be released, surprisingly a lot, but still I would just push through the hurts and lack of energy. And finally one day, when I bent down, I felt a terrible pain in my lower back, to the point where I had to stop and sit for a while. And even then, I continued to push forward. I rested for a bit more and then continued. Then my lower back began to hurt more and more, and the headaches began to get worse and worse, to the point where I could no longer work out. I did not know that I was experiencing Havana syndrome at the time. Still, I did light workouts, but the forced nocturnal emissions were too much to handle. It would worsen my back pain and drain me of all of my energy. Right while I would lay in bed to sleep at night, I would begin to notice I was actually hearing whispers in my ear. At first I noticed it, but it grew louder and louder and louder, to the point where I could hear it, like someone was laying right next to me. At first I was terrified, but long story short, I got used to it. I hear it every time I'm in a quiet place and every night before I go to sleep. Sometimes the voices would grow louder for a second and would say things like, quote, "You're going to die. Run for your fucking life. You're a sexy little slut," and things like that. But I just ignore it because it doesn't even scare me anymore. I still hear it till this day, every single night. Forced ejaculation. I can't even put it into words how terrible these, I'm just going to say forced EJ, okay, are. It doesn't even really feel good. It is euphoric, but it's not asked for. It's not consensual. I would feel just a little good, but the pleasure feels forced and synthetic. Like if heroin was forced injected into your veins, I will feel good, but it's non-consensual and it hurts because you don't want it. It would feel barely good, but it would feel mostly extremely painful, like a needle is being jabbed into my prostate and being forcibly squeezed like a lemon until the juice came spurting out. Okay, so he's got away with words here. I don't even know how much of this is going to be allowed. I'm reading this for the first time. Well, the first time in a long time. Out of all the attacks launched against me, this one was one that took me down. It was this one attack that destroyed everything in my life because it causes draining and damages to you on all levels of your being, physical, mental, and spiritual. And remember, this is he's talking about 16 to 17-year-old boy. This is a kiddo. No matter how strong you are mentally, spiritually, or physically, there is pretty much absolutely no way to defend yourself. And so you just sit there as your most powerful and vital life force energy gets sucked right out of you. It's horrendous. Especially because nobody believes you and will even think you're crazy. You're lazy. You don't have a way to prove it, what's happening to you. And even if you do, they'll just call it nocturnal emissions or label it as a natural dream, psychological, biological sleeping disorder. At least if you have a cancer or visually observable injury, at least people will believe you and help you. Many will even have sympathy for you. But when you undergo this terrible attack, you will not even be given sympathy. And you may even be called a fedo or a crazy schizo freak. It truly is the perfect attack, the perfect neutralization tool. It is the perfect crime. I cannot put into words my pain from this attack. Now, one day while working in construction with my father, he spotted a bump on my back and asked me what it was. I did not notice the bump. It turned out it was a bone that popped out of place on the right side of my upper back. Here are the pictures. And if I remember correctly, I couldn't, there's a URL here. I'll show it to you. Oh, okay, here you go. I then could no longer work out because of this injury. It was the lack of physical and mental energy and my terrible bodily pains, especially my lower back pain, for connected to the sacral chakra. It all began to fall apart from there. Around my eyes began to become dark and black and sunken and deep. My hair would grow thin and wispy to the point where you could see my scalp and pull my hair out and it would fall out into the shower floor where I bathed. As about 2 years have gone by, I can no longer work. I can no longer work out or exercise hard. Even jumping on the trampoline gives me back pain. These pictures are my terrible state of condition now. Okay, so here's a photo of his hair. And remind you, this is a young teenager. Here's another photo. This is what happens with microwave assaults. Men and women, boys and girls. Here he is. Here he is meditating. No, you see, he's sitting meditating. After all I've gone through and done for the world, I have descended once more. For I have been stricken down from my high place by my enemies, even unto my belly. Now I move slowly and I crawl all throughout my days. If only I knew of their existence before beginning my mission. If only I knew of this one fact, I could have had more covert approach to my mission and avoided their electromagnetic ambush. I see now these secret hidden enemies are the number one threat to all real human light workers and warriors of light, for they are a terribly powerful enemy that can destroy anyone's life through invisible and indirect means of physical, mental, electromagnetic, and spiritual harassment, intimidation, sabotage, and framing, all while draining you of your energy and beating you to death on an atomic and cellular level throughout a long period of time, as there's absolutely nothing you could really do other than mitigate the energy with anti-EMF products and pray, meditate, and only in rare instances, rare cases, and even assault and assassination is possible if you become dark enough. The sexual attacks in which they make you ejaculate is the strongest and most terrible, probably one of the most effective non-direct attacks in the entire universe. If only you knew. I'm writing this down for the world to see now, because I am now extremely degraded just as I have reached the age of 18. I am physically and mentally disabled to the point where there's no way I can work any decent paying job. Most likely not any at all, physically or mentally. I am even still in so much pain and agony every single day. I crawl now through my days. I walk slow. I progress slowly through my life now, limping over the hills and mountains for a better life. Step by step, I keep me moving forward. So here I sit on my laptop, still in my dad's house with an uncertain future. I await faithfully now for my fate to be sealed, whatever it may be. Now, my fellow Gaians, I'm afraid to tell you that Operation STFW, Save the Fucking World, is a failure. Now my new objective is to simply survive and pray for the liberation of mankind, that others may finish the work that I could not. But there is hope, new hope. The world is waking up. The world is waking up. I see it now all around the globe. I see light workers on YouTube ads, online videos making their rounds and effects all around the globe. Warriors of light working openly and covertly, even infiltrating our own infiltrated government and tearing apart the beast from the inside out. Oh, how I am glad. Oh, and yes, we need to add, let's edit this. Yes, Tulsi Gabbard fired 100 perverts from the NSA. Oh my goodness. Oh, how I'm glad, for the people have truly begun to arise and come after me. And it's surprising, for the pandemic, which was supposed to exterminate a large sum of the population and rest the people back to sleep. But instead, their own plan backfired upon the dark forces themselves. They have shot themselves in the foot. Never in my life have I, for that matter, anyone in the world seen an awakening to this extent. I said the same thing too, like it totally backfired, because all those people that had to stay home from work for 2 years, they got on the internet and they educated themselves, they started channels, they started making money. It did backfire. And then of course they didn't want to go back to work, right? Because they started their own YouTube channels and they were making more money doing cat dog videos than they were back in their jobs. Yeah, well, just like this town shot themselves in the foot. Yes, many are still asleep. Indeed, for a matter of fact, most are still asleep. But still, I can see the effects. I can see now the human channels of galactic ET beings of light telling the true words of our galactic family of light. Riots all over the world. Volcanic eruptions and little earthquakes under the ground destroying the deep underground military bases. Okay, kiddos are being saved from the ADRENO blah 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 and removed from the filthy clutches of the underground private island the blah 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 Satanists. Okay? Many of them have been executed, and many negative ETs have been either exterminated or banished from around the Earth's higher spaces. Extremely large amounts of light being sent to the Earth from the galactic central sun and even our own sun, sending us a boost of energy from its X-class solar flares. Large weather patterns in space and class flares from the sun and light beings send to mankind and Gaia in large waves of light from many different sources in the heavens. Space, higher, subtle planes. The prophecy is true, and we are living through it all. But not only that, but spoken by the GFL, the Galactic Federation of Light, via the Earth channels. We are in one of the most positive timelines for Earth's ascension, for humanity is finally ascending and begging to wake up. Even the Earth is already in the fifth dimension, as well as some of its animal inhabitants. Some light workers are even working on a larger scale in order to clean up our lands and oceans. And on top of all of that, it has finally been stated that the GFL, that indeed the light has won. The light has already won. And we're just currently within a clearing, preparation process of Earth before the great reveal. Oh, how happy I am to see this news. If there be a single true warrior of light retired or still in action, know that the fire still burns and that we are still here. And I am not talking about the fake, disgraceful babies that say it for style or attention. I am talking about the real soldiers of light who have come here for the singular purpose of truly bringing great positive change to this world on a mass scale via covert operations of light, like TLS, the Light System, GFL, or the Earth Alliance. You don't have to be part of any of these groups in order to make it big. Your heart simply has to burn like the green and yellow fire of determination, will, and furious love. This message may only find 1 or 2 light workers, but that would still be enough for me. I sit now patiently, praying every day for those who have finally come after me and thanking the martyrs who have died fighting for the truth before me. Victory be to the light. Until next time, my brothers and sisters of Gaia, I will see you on the new Earth. Adam, Jehovah, Huma. Now this is page 80. I'm going to end here. And then he gives his number again. I'll show you. I don't know if any of this is valid anymore. Okay? Okay, I think I want to continue on this. He said symptoms and signs of their attacks: wet ears and dead skin. If you wake up in the morning with the inside of your ears feeling wet, then get a cotton swab and go clean it. You will then see that the cotton swab cleans out a lot of earwax. This is a sure sign of directed energy attack because the heat from the radiation is being sent directly at your ear region in order to cause the fray effect so that you can hear voices. And it will also be the heat from the high-powered microwave frequency that they are sending you in order to torment you. The heat from this radiation causes the earwax in your ears to melt, as well as the skin around the inner part of your ear to die and shed. If for no apparent reason you wake up in the morning with melted earwax and dead skin around the inner part of your ear, then you're being attacked by directed energy weapons. You may also have a dry scalp, dead skin around your head area. Land air vehicles, your perpetrators may constantly fly planes over and past you and purposely make their engines roar as loudly as possible when they do. One of the reasons they do this is in order to draw your attention, get on your nerves, and test your endurance. You will constantly see the cheap little planes making very large circles in order to pass by you multiple times a day. Sometimes 2 planes are used, sometimes more. They also most likely install their directed energy devices on the planes in order to attack you with their devices. They also have been known to use drones in order to use directed energy attacks. I have seen trucks that are using cargo trailers in order to carry their large directed energy weapons and drive by you in order to attack you. They may also slam on their brakes or honk their horns when driving past you in order to get your attention. They may also make their engines roar or drift really loudly for a long time as possible, usually a bit far from you. It's about getting your attention. Why? Because that's exactly what they want, because energy goes where energy flows. Little thumps in your ear. This is caused by the directed energy weapons, usually whenever they try to make you hear voices. They may also do this to try to catch your attention and make you focus on them because they want you to. They do this by sending little concentrated electromagnetic pulses to your skull. It may feel like there's a little bug stuck in your ear behind your eardrum, trying to get out. You can hear and feel the thumps every once in a while. Or it may feel like someone quickly blew inside your ear and said the sound of right next to your ear. Havana syndrome and painful joints. This Havana syndrome really just means a terrible aching feeling in your head that you may feel. If you feel this bad aching and painful feeling in your head when you wake in the morning, then you are most definitely being attacked by their dues. It may be hard to breathe, and your body and joints may feel very tight, painful, and uncomfortable, which leads me to my next symptom. Body aches and muscle pain. Whoops. Let me tell you that this is just an absolutely terrible thing to experience. I have been in so much pain all throughout my body because of them. This will usually be experienced from the forced EJs. EJing in your sleep, forced EJing, panda eyes, and brain fog. This is by far one of the most powerful attacks of the enemy that anyone in the world could possibly experience. Possibly one of the hardest things in the world to go through at all. I cannot stress this enough. Out of every single tactic and method of attack by the enemy. Your sexual energy and semen is a store center for a large amount of your energy as a man. When you're constantly losing this energy, you will quickly begin to lose large amounts of your strength. This is why one of the reasons it's called Le Petit Mort, also the Little Death. The symptoms of constant ejaculation are a foggy and slow mind, an acne burst on your face, a largely increased appetite, and this one is terrible because of the loss of your energy, lower energy levels and strength in general, back and especially low back pain, You will feel the pain mostly throughout your joints, lower and upper back. And if you have been EJing, then you may also feel it in your forearms and your entire body, lower testosterone levels, and of course the panda eyes, and finally increased facial hair growth, because aging speeds up when you begin to EJ. The area under your eyes may become dark black or sunken deeply inwards. After all, it's said that your eyes are the window to your soul. And so if your soul is getting drained, your eyes will show it. If you lack energy and proper nutrition, then your eyes will show it. So if you are terribly drained and constantly getting drained, then the panda eyes will begin to show. This is what happened to me, because I have always been getting RAPED in his dreams, and I still am. And I'm going to end here. I'm on page 84. I'm at the 50-minute mark here, but this is a very long book, a guide, and his testimony is quite long. But I'm going to end here. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, get the message out there. And once again, this is a testimony. It's an educational testimony. I'm reading from a survival guide that he calls The Secret Hidden Enemies, Darkness versus Light, the Targeted Individual Spiritual Survival Guide, an explanation to gang stalking and the entire world situation. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading, signing off for now.